Yeah, here we are, Scary Alvarez podcast. I know that my guest loves that song. It's a huge Wisconsin Badger tradition. I know he's a huge fan of the Badger traditions, and we'll get into some of that later. Can't get enough of Camp Randall and all the good vibes coming from there. But welcome to Scary Alvarez podcast. I'm of course Scary Alvarez, Wine Island enjoyer, Sherry Wine destroyer, Jake's grandpa, and Cindy's plus one when she'll have me. And I'm very excited to welcome what some might call the most hated person for Wisconsin fans outside of PJ Fleck, Brett Bielema, and Pac-12 referees, Big Game Boomer. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Good to have you.
Yeah.
And I want to get this out there from the outset so there's no awkwardness. Is Big Game Boomer your real name?
Yeah, pretty much. BGB is what everyone calls me pretty much. So
Gotcha. I can't do it this quick because I don't have my intern Joe Ferguson, but I could come up with something for BGB that probably isn't the same as what you have. But I'll work on that.
Big game,
big game, butt. There you go.
Butt. I don't know something. Yeah, everyone calls me BGB. That's kind of how it is for short.
So did that, and I'm going to have you kind of introduce what you do. But did that nickname, did that pre-exist the Twitter account, or how'd that
go? So I'm an OU. I went to OU guy. So
sorry.
Yeah. Well, hey, come on now. We've had more success in Wisconsin over the last couple decades. But
it depends on when you start talking. That's true. Absolutely. You guys, I will say this: you guys got to the point where I felt sorry for you seeing you playing those BCS games and those championship play, knowing you guys weren't going to win. But it was almost like I was rooting for you as an underdog, which felt kind of weird.
Yeah, we just don't. The problem with you guys is we don't have an Ohio State or Michigan that we have to get past every season to get to the playoffs. So
you have a Texas.
That'll change when we get to the SEC.
You have a Texas. I mean, that had to be. You guys are going to miss that. We'll get into Texas. We're going to get into that Red River rivalry in a bit. But let me let you get back on. Tell me kind of about your account and how things started.
Yeah, I mean, 2020, COVID. Everyone's just doing nothing, isolated. Nothing to do. So I got on Twitter, found that there's this gigantic audience of people that talk college football. Hadn't used Twitter really at all up until then. And I just started tweeting out my opinions on sports. I got in some arguments with like Desmond Howard and Herb Street to start. And then I just started tweeting out my opinions in like list and graphic form. And you've been following me for a while now, Scary. So, I mean, it's been like 3 years now since I've been doing this. And got like over 90,000 followers on Twitter, and we're just constantly arguing about sports. I mean, that's what I love about it. It's for me. I do it because I like talking sports, and doing this kind of gets me talking about college football and college sports kind of year round.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, yeah, I mean, your account is very popular, and I know you have a lot of dedicated fans, and there's also some sort of, and I have a few of these myself, kind of we call the hate fans, the ones who they can't wait to see the next list that comes out. I mean, sometimes some weeks I fall into this category to see, the word smelling mascot balls or something. You have a lot of different variations for the stuff you do. Where do you come up with the ideas for some of these lists? I mean, some of them are kind of deep dives.
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of in my head. I mean, I've got kind of a running list of stuff that I do, but I've been doing this for, I said, 3 years now. I've got kind of a content calendar now from when stuff goes out, weekly routines, stuff like that. But I mean, it's pretty straight simple. Like if I get an idea, I'm just like, all right, let's just put a list together and run with it. And could be ugliest college mascots. It could be top 50 best nickel slot corners. It's really, at this point, it's anything. And that's the great thing about college fans. You can literally rank any aspect of someone's school, and they're going to have their own take on it. And that's just kind of my recipe. And I think people enjoy it, whether they hate me or they love me. I mean, it's all fun.
Get some talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to cover this. This has always kind of bothered me. Is something's vibrating here? I'm not sure what's going on there. You hear that? Okay, it's in my head.
Nothing is vibrating.
It's that same thing that's in my head telling me how awesome I am 24/7. And I believe it. Is Oklahoma coach Brent Venables' vision from the Avenger movies? I've always wanted to ask an Oklahoma fan this. That's got to be weird seeing that guy in that face. It's
Yeah,
just it's
he does look like a action figure or something with that. Just like he reminds me of the Joker a little bit with his like smile with his I mean his or the Grinch when like the cartoon one when he does that smile and his like face like turns like 90 degrees. You know what I'm talking about.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of what he reminds me of. Big smile.
gotcha,
Big smile.
absolutely. And this is something again. We're going to get into Wisconsin stuff, and I want to kind of lead this off. We'll dip kind of back and forth between some of the stuff you cover and some of the stuff I cover. But this is one that I've been wondering about, and it's going to be in the form of a hypothetical. I hope this is going to be kind of fun for you.
Yeah.
Give you a chance to say which one of these you'd pick. I'm going to get a little personal here. So if you had to choose between a fun romantic night out with the woman you love, or sitting alone in a dark room masturbating to photos of half full Wisconsin student sections in the first quarter, which would you pick? I just need you to be honest here.
Oh my
It's just the
god.
two of us. No one's going
Come
to watch
on,
this.
dude. Come on. Come on. Go out with the wife.
Okay. That surprises me. I'm going to tell you, Vegas had that at 3-2 for the student section, but we'll get back into that. That's
Yeah, we
fun
can
stuff.
talk about that.
Who is the most overrated team in college football right now? Texas or the Longhorns?
Both. Always. I mean, look, Texas will get up to play Alabama, but they're gonna lay an egg against one of these Big 12 teams. That's just how they are. I mean, they will not show up for one or two games and they'll get beat. And that's what'll happen to Texas. Everyone's picking them to go to the college football playoff now, and I'm like, just pump the brakes, pump the brakes. You live down in Austin, so like, I mean, I couldn't even imagine you having to deal with that down there. It's a giant media dragon slayer with all the hype and propaganda down there, I bet.
There's a lot. Yeah, actually, well, to clarify, I live in Madison. I have a
Oh, that's
winery
right.
a winery down the hill country in Austin. So occasionally when I'm stopping by, like I was in Dallas last weekend to see Jake play, I bop on down in my Cessna to Austin, take a look at the winery. It's doing great.
They do have a good wine country down there. I'll give that to them.
It's pretty good.
San Marcos, quick drive down south from Austin. That's a nice, good little college town.
Yeah. I'm not sure how good the college is, but the town.
Hey, they beat Baylor. They beat Baylor. They're
Yeah.
looking pretty good this year.
Yeah, beating Baylor. So they beat the third worst team on their schedule this year somehow. Or Dave Aranda. I will say I do have to bop in. Dave Aranda was a fantastic defensive coordinator for not only Wisconsin but also for LSU. And really, I'm kind of like Graham Mertz, who's playing down in Florida now. Some of these guys who really gave of themselves for the Badgers, I always do root for them when I don't root for Bielema, but some of these other guys, I really root for them. And I'm a little bit surprised that Aranda's not having more success at Baylor. Does that surprise you?
Yeah. I mean, he's a great defensive coordinator. I mean, the defense has not been great. Offense, I mean, Blake Shapen has not been great. So, yeah, I'm a little shocked that it's going south there. But they play Texas this weekend, so I expect Texas to blow them out in Waco. I mean, that should be an ugly game based on the first two games of Baylor's performance. They just looked horrible.
I think if Baylor would have gotten Texas last weekend, like Wyoming did, it would have been an interesting game. Texas, I'm not sure if you watched that Texas Wyoming game.
It was ugly.
Texas looked like a Pee Wee football team for three quarters in that game, and that's not exaggerating. I mean, I understand they have some highly. I mean, Worthy is one of the most fantastic NFL ready kind of receivers.
He's a stud.
Quinn Ewers, and Worthy might even be faster than me. Quinn Ewers is a really good quarterback. Although I don't know if that's a generational Alabama team he beat. He still played really well in a tough environment, but he was missing 7-yard outs 3 feet over guys' heads, and all I know is a lot of beer and mirth was had this week in Austin by these players. I think they had to have a players only meeting. I think you might have heard that before the game to kind of get things together. And look, they're just a better team than Wyoming, and the talent won over. So that wasn't a shocking result, but I'm telling you that might have been the week to get them. And I also think Baylor will come out and maybe keep it close for a while, but I think Texas will because they're just so much more talented than Baylor. I think they're going to stop them.
Yeah, no, I think Texas wins. I think they cover. I think it's like a 9-point spread. So maybe even higher than that now. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think Texas wins. But I don't know. It looks like, I mean, we're talking Big 12 football. I mean, not to be biased or anything, but it looks like OU and Texas are probably the two best teams in the league. I mean, the Big 12 is just getting murdered in non-conference play.
Yeah.
So other than OU and Texas, it's everyone else is just getting their butts kicked. So
It's going to be like I'm a man, I'm 80 from Gundy this year. I mean, it's just their
Oklahoma
season.
State's just
They're so bad.
yeah,
It's
they're
unbelievable.
horrible.
Well, speaking of Texas and Oklahoma, are you hopeful that OU can keep it within 6 touchdowns in the Red River Shootout this year?
I think it'll be closer. It's not going to be 49-0. We may lose, but I think it's going to be a much closer game. I think the defense is a lot better this year. And I don't think Texas. Look at Alabama. I mean, shoot, is Alabama any good this year? I mean, they look horrible, and they'll probably lose to Ole Miss this weekend. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was tweeting. I was going to tweet earlier. I was like, when's the last time Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama all lost on the same Saturday? Because that could easily happen on Saturday, and I don't know the answer to that, but. I mean, it could happen. College football, it's changing, man. NIL and transfer portal, it's changed all of it.
It's not the same. And
Yeah.
it's going to come for Georgia too. I know people don't think that.
Oh, yeah. They didn't look great in South Carolina.
Yeah.
You definitely saw some weaknesses there.
It's going to come for Georgia. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. So, and again, this is getting back into your count. I'm trying to, give my listener a sense for the things you do and how it's done. So when you're compiling your lists, like best backup tight end performance of the week, is it cool that gives you a little extra time with your girlfriend and son when the orangutan you hired to do the list works away with those lists for you?
I'm the one that's doing all of them. It's a one-man show.
Really?
Yeah. I don't.
Shit.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of do it as I'm watching games all day Saturday. So yeah, Big Game Boomer is one person.
Okay.
It's funny how many people think it's like a full-blown company.
Yeah. Well, you're saving money on bananas as far as hiring those orangutans. And you might notice I learned this recently. I have another grandson. Of course, Jake Ferguson is my grandson, but named Joe Ferguson, who apparently played at Wisconsin for 4 years as well. I recently learned that he was my grandson, and he does a lot. Since I wanted to make up some time to have some quality time with him, he does a lot of my statistical stuff now, and does that kind of stuff that the unpaid grad assistants used to do. So it's we all have our ways of doing it. I have better things to do. I chill in the Ibiza a lot with some of the DJs and things like that. So I can't
do that.
Well, you know that. You probably heard the stories. We can talk about that off camera. Give me your college football playoff teams and why at this
right
point.
Now? Right now? Shoot. Georgia and Michigan. I mean, just because it's so early, those are two front runners. Then I've got Florida State. They're kind of the big, I feel like they were the team that got hyped up all off season. I partly feel responsible for it, but like I did NC State last year. But they are, they're really good, and I think they're going to go to Clemson this Saturday and beat the crap out of a weak Tiger team. So I got them, and then I got Penn State. I think Penn State's really good this year. Drew Aller, he's definitely got a very high ceiling. Haven't seen his best yet, and Penn State's defense is just probably better than Michigan's this year. I mean, in every position group, they might be one of the best defenses in the country. So that's my 4 right now. I got 2 Big Ten teams like last year.
And I noticed one of them is not Ohio State, and that's taking people by surprise. And I know, I'm not sure how much of it is for effect or to tweak the fans, but obviously you've had some stuff to say about the Badgers this year that people, even a very self-critical fan base has taken exception to, like being in your top 20 bottom teams. That's pretty funny, but
Ohio State is.
I've called the Wisconsin win. I've called a Wisconsin win over Ohio State in Madison in late October.
I'm down. I'm down for it. I'm all for it. I'm all for it this year. I think Ohio State is not a physical football team, and I think they're going to get. exposed by Michigan and Penn State, and could possibly lose to Notre Dame and your Badgers. When's that game? That's in October?
That game is it's right before Halloween.
Okay.
So I'm hoping Wisconsin goes dressed as a team that can beat Ohio State. It's of course you're kind of a young guy. How old are you?
Oh, 32.
Approximately 32. Okay,
32.
so the last time you were a teenager. The last time Wisconsin beat Ohio State in 2010.
Yeah.
It was a damn good Ohio State team. It was number 1 Ohio State team at the time.
I remember
Jimmy G. Yeah.
that was in the Horseshoe, wasn't it?
No, that was in Madison.
It was in Madison.
You know what's crazy? And J.J. Watt was on that team, and James White. It was a very talented Wisconsin team. But the thing only the real Wisconsin fans know this. Wisconsin. Oh, you still there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. One of the craziest things is when Wisconsin wasn't good before the Barry Alvarez years. I'm talking about the 80s. They had a couple okay years, a couple minor bowl games. Wisconsin actually beat Ohio State, and Ohio State was very good then too. More times in the 80s, like 10 more times in the 80s than they've beaten them in the past 16 years while Wisconsin had a good football program. That is such a testament to just how built up and muscular that program became and how the gap between Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten, although that is narrowed now in some cases, how that emerged in the 2000s and with Urban Meyer and things like that. It was just kind of it just snuck up on us, and they became almost an unbeatable team with Michigan down.
Yeah, no, and just their recruiting. I mean, it's just quarterback play has always been off the charts. But I just the last 2 years, how Ohio State's gotten manhandled by Michigan. I mean, it's definitely it's a physicality thing. I don't think they're a very physical football team. And in the Big Ten, you got to be physical, and they don't have that. So they got talent, but I think the mindset of Ohio State is that they're more talented than everybody. They can just go in, outscore everyone, and you can't do that.
Let's say Ohio State has a disastrous season. For them, that means like 3 losses.
9-3.
Let's say they lose.
Highest falling.
Yeah, let's say they lose to Wisconsin, Penn State, and Michigan. Okay, and they go to Outback Bowl or something and beat South Carolina.
Yeah.
Do you see a scenario where they fire Ryan Day?
Yeah. Losing to Michigan 3 years in a row? Hell yeah. He's going to get fired. If they lose to Michigan this year, he's gone. I can almost guarantee it.
Okay.
I mean, did you see the Ohio State fans start to turn on them when in the Indiana game the first week of the season? I mean, I'm telling you, they are just Ohio State fans are. I mean, they are just waiting. I feel like they're more waiting for Ohio State to fail so they can jump on Ryan Day than the opposite for them to succeed.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I understand, that's fans, it's the passion of fans, and the administrations are different. But hopefully you can understand the unease as a Wisconsin fan who is very happy with our new coach. 2023 may not be his best year, but it's going to be a year where he builds his brand here a little bit and then starts getting his guys in. I mean, I think you'd be a fool and you would be blind and be an ostrich to think that Luke Fickell would not be, if not at the very top, very close to the top of Ohio State's wish list if Ryan Day were fired. That is a somewhat terrifying prospect for Wisconsin fans. You don't think they're thinking about it. I'm just saying.
Let me calm your nerves here a little bit. Okay. I mean, Fickell, great coach, outstanding hire by Wisconsin. He was the interim head coach for the year when Tressel got fired. And from what I've read and heard, that he did not like that at all, being that, that spotlight, that magnifying glass, that type of program. I do not think he liked that experience. I think that's why he kind of has been very patient about where he took his next head coaching job. And I think that's ultimately why he ended up at Wisconsin. So if the Ohio State job comes open, I don't think Fickell would. He's not a flight risk.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and to be clear, that is nothing I'd ever heard from anyone close to Fickell. That's just the kind of the logical speculation that you think, but that's interesting. I'd not heard that. Yeah. I know some people said, "Oh, well, he wasn't successful that year," but of course, he was put in almost an impossible situation in 2011. I mean, they had some talent on the team, but that was a broken, incredible amount of very disheveled locker room for many reasons, not just Tressel's issues. And that was a tough team, although they still somehow managed to beat Russell Wilson's generational Wisconsin team with a Hail Mary in Columbus. It's just one of
That's the
those
game.
crazy things.
That's the game right there that I remembered from my childhood was the game in the shoe when they beat Russell Wilson. That's the one I was thinking of.
It was horrifying.
Yeah.
Wisconsin had 3 losses that season with Wilson. Well, Wilson, 33 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 6 more on the ground. That was the year. I mean, the defense wasn't a vintage Wisconsin defense, but that offense was something.
Yeah.
Other loss was a Hail Mary at Michigan State, last play of the game in regulation. They called it. He didn't get in the field, but he probably didn't. But then the refs want to make people happy like they did in Pullman a couple weeks ago, and they do their thing and they won the game. And then of course they lost by 7 to Oregon in the Rose Bowl. But anyway, we digress. I've known, obviously, to get more about the brand building and stuff like that. I'm obviously well known for building something really cool out of nothing in college football. Not sure if you followed my career.
I know a little bit about you. A little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm known for building something really cool out of nothing. That college football that masses of people love. That puts a smile on their faces and they enjoy it every day. Do you hope to try that yourself someday?
Do what? Be a
try to make people happy with the stuff you do.
I mean, kind of doing it. Yeah. I mean, it's just really kind of for entertainment. I mean, I know I'm not going to be right every single time I tweet something. So, yeah, sure.
Well, you're alluding. I think you probably know where I'm going with this. This is the special part of the show where we talk about the Badgers.
Yeah.
To orient some of my listener who may not understand this, there's a little bit of a kind of a adversarial, I think it's fair to say, relationship with Big Game Boomer and the Wisconsin fan base, if nothing else.
Just right now. I don't think it was that way, though. I don't think it was that way last year. I think
it bled in. But
Badger
anyway,
Badger fans this offseason have been the cockiest I've ever seen. You guys are usually very, we know we're going to go 9-3, 8-4, but we know our limitations. We know we can't score 50 points a game on offense. This offseason has been a little different. I've seen just the chatter on Twitter. I mean, it's a lot of high expectations for Fickell's first year in Madison, and rightfully so. I mean, he took a group of 5 teams to the college football playoff. But I think, and it's yet to unfold, but I mean, you guys did lose to Wazoo, is that it's going to take a year or two to make this transition that Fickell's trying to make. And I didn't think right away that Phil Longo is going to go in there and they're going to be running the air raid and just to lighten up Big Ten West teams. And you may do that. You haven't play Purdue on Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, always destroy Purdue. I don't think Purdue has beaten Wisconsin in my lifetime.
Early 2000s. Yeah, it's been. I believe we're going on almost 20 years.
Yeah.
No, boy, I hear what you're saying, and this is always the outside of the program versus the inside of the program perception, because I've heard that exact thing you just said about the cocky fans, and I deal with a lot of Wisconsin fans on Twitter, and I talk to a lot of them. I do the podcast. The average pretty learned Wisconsin fan was very excited about Luke Fickell, and there's certainly some of them went over the moon about how good he was going to be. But the average Wisconsin fan this year, I'm not sure if it's a case of just having lost so many tough, heartbreaking games that you keep perspective.
Yeah.
We're a very kind of cautiously optimistic. So it wasn't like Luke Fickell's going to come in and the Badgers are going to be 13-0, run the table, go to the college football playoff. I don't know anyone who thought that. No realistic, serious fan thought that.
I gotta go. So I don't know. For every school, I do I post a screenshot of their schedule and say, Wisconsin's record will be fill in the blank. And I was just blown away by the Badger fans that were coming in saying 10-2 minimum floor. 9-3 is worst case scenario. I mean, it was
that's interesting that you and your stuff saw a little bit different, a little bit less cautious fan base than I see in mine, which is closer. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I believe that you're seeing those responses, but maybe that's kind of you bring it out in the fan base, right? So the the people who see you and know you've had some adversarial takes on the Badgers are the most likely ones who want to be like, "Fuck you," this is you're gonna eat shit. F you. It's something we do in the Badger games. You gotta get out to one of those games. And I will say, if you're gonna get to one, Wisconsin, Ohio State, I believe it's the 27th or 20th of October. Your perception of the student section at Wisconsin will take a. I don't know what's going to change or not change, but it will definitely have some additional information.
Do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about the student section real quick? Because I know that's
we're getting there. I have a couple of specific questions I want to ask, but we can, let's, I'm going to kind of give you the floor now before I go in, but obviously you've taken the position, I think with some ammunition, that's correct, that the Wisconsin student section is the worst student section in college football. I'm going to give you the floor briefly before I interrupt you and correct you to kind of state your case here and tell us where you're coming from. I know some of it's trolling, but some of it you genuinely believe, and let us know what the basis is.
You got to understand where I am on a Saturday when I'm getting hundreds of pictures of different student sections, across every single school. And so I get a lot of pictures of the empty stadium when, it's kickoff and the Badger student section is like half full. They're still coming in. So that's kind of that's part of it. Yeah. That's part of the problem. That's the problem right there.
Yeah.
And the narrative is that you guys kind of trickle in, aren't that rowdy, just, when jump around comes, that's the moment. That's when everyone goes insane. And then you all just, once that's over, then student section kind of dies down. That's the national narrative.
That's the perception that is in most cases inaccurate. If it's a game like Army or it's a game Wisconsin's blowing them out, it's a MAC team, it's the fourth quarter, that might empty out. But I can tell you, to give you some perspective on the student section, this has been an oft-discussed topic. It's not as much, the problem is not as much kids not, there are some who do this, but it's not so much kids not wanting to get there on time. It is that, and I've been very vocal about the fact I don't like this. It used to be a general admission policy where you just go and you stand or you sit where you want to sit. They bring them in a long single file line and fill up slowly, one after the other after the other. So when you see 9 minutes left in the first quarter and that section is 2/3 full, you have a line trudging out into the corridors of kids like, what the F is going on here? Totally want to be in their seats at that moment and aren't. That doesn't mean they're not late arrivals. That is a thing too. But I'm telling you, the vast majority of it is the system, and that's not. That's not
the system itself is stupid.
Yeah,
it's 2023. We got to figure out a way to get all those kids inside the stadium before kickoff. I mean, I've never been to Camp Randall. I mean, is it that narrow?
No, it's not. This could be corrected, and I'm telling you, you're not going to get a lot of pictures and descriptions from people. Let's say there's 2 minutes into the second quarter when the game's 7-7. That crowd is going freaking bananas. It's full to the top, and now everyone's there. That is the majority of most games. So that's what you're not seeing. And yes, I'm not going to say the crowd doesn't file out, but if the crowd is in a close game or just a Big Ten game and they do jump around the third quarter, people don't leave. I mean, look at the 2019 season alone, the Michigan game and some of the other ones back when the last really good, strong, highly ranked Wisconsin team was there. They were there at the bitter end. So, some of it is success. Some of it's a little bit of lethargy. Some of it is just the way they come in and out. And some of it is some of the kids just aren't that into it. I think with COVID, and I don't think that's exclusive to Wisconsin. I think some kids just don't care as much about being a part of that college experience. I think it's a combination of all of those things. But I do think some of those perceptions has been playing too many big noon kickoff games where they're letting kids in slowly. The Ohio State game, Boomer, at kickoff, and they're going to make it happen. That's going to be full, and it's going to be bananas beginning to end.
You think that because it's a system problem? So you think it'll be full for the Ohio?
Yeah, I think it is. I think they're going to find. I think it's a system problem. They're going to find a way to make that work. I think it's going to. I'm not saying it's going to be okay. It may not be completely full, but it's going to be. I just think it's going to be. They're going to find a way because it's a later game too. they'll make it work. But I will say, um, no two games are exactly alike. But you can talk to any student who's in those lines. This is not. There's a student who's there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're still not seated by 11:15. So
Yeah, it's
it's
ridiculous.
systemic. We'll figure it out.
Here's what we need to do. We need me, you. Who's another big Badger influencer out there?
I'm pretty much the
Big Cat.
biggest, and
Big Cat.
I'm all you
Big
need.
Cat.
But
Big Cat.
yeah, Big Cat's
Big
great.
Cat.
I mean,
Big Cat.
he's tried to do it though.
Big Cat could get this fixed. I'm telling you. Because I want to see it fixed. I mean, it's not. I don't hate Wisconsin. Like people like to say I hate every team, but seeing an half empty stadium when you're kicking off the game, that kind of pisses me off. Seeing that. I know trust me, I've talked to Wisconsin fans. I know about the single file system. It could be fixed. So we got to do something to fix it. I mean, it's just
my point is just this though, and you're in a position to sort of you call yourself an influencer, and I'm not saying you owe Wisconsin anything, but what I'm telling you is the national perception of what the environment is like at these Wisconsin games that comes from websites like yours and others does not gel with the game day experience that these kids are having. That's all I'm telling you.
I know it's a blockbuster party outside the stadium.
It's a raucous party inside that stadium too. And again, the late arriving shit, I am 100% with you. That is infuriating, and we got to get that fixed. But after those kids are in those stands, and unfortunately, it's a little later than you'd like it to be. That is one of the best environments in college football, and I'm telling you, it's Wisconsin 24, Ohio State 20. Let's not even make it Ohio State. Let's make it Rutgers. It's Wisconsin 23, Rutgers 14. Jump around happens. There isn't one kid that's going to leave that stadium after jump around. They're gonna be there to the bitter end in that game. If they're beating them by 50, 6 minutes left, you get the third team in. Yeah, they probably, but that's hardly exclusive to Wisconsin. So I'm just saying, open your mind back up again. And Wisconsin.
There were times over the last couple of years where there were, can't remember the games, but where Wisconsin did have an extremely good showing, like where I watched the game and I was like, damn, they're freaking loud there. And I'm not even there. Where I've noticed the atmosphere there has gotten pretty raucous. But
yeah, it gets there. And again, some of it is having sort of, by our standards, mediocre teams for three straight seasons. That hasn't helped either. It wasn't 2020 to 2022. Those are not Wisconsin seasons. So if Wisconsin is finishing 7-5, 8-4, 9-4, you say that you don't know where our place in college football is. I mean, our place in college football in the early Paul Curse years was New Year's Six games, 12-1, 10-3. Wisconsin won 10 or more games. I believe it was 4 out of 6 years in the mid 2015s to 2020. So I mean, we can get there again. This year, we obviously we'll see what's going on with that. But we're gonna play. I want to get you out of here. We're gonna play a word association game. This is always fun. Fun for me at least. I don't know about you. I don't care if it's fun for you, but let's do this. Okay. First thing that pops in your mind when I say these: PJ Fleck,
Gopher, Boat.
Keep going. You can do better.
Gopher, Boat. I don't know.
Self-idolizing fraud.
Hairstyle. Oh, he's bald. He has someone that prepares his wardrobes. Who is that? What's that called? What? It's
I don't know.
Haberdasher, dresser. I don't know. The dude's like he's very like he's almost like too clean cut the way he dresses.
Yeah. I will say this: he's known for hanging banners for minor things like winning an Outback Bowl and not making the Big Ten championship game. But I will say that PJ Fleck is the most celebrated one game over 500 for his career Big Ten coach in his 7th year in Big Ten history, who took over a 9-4 team. I always like to say that it is absolutely amazing, and it is evidence, period, point blank, of the low standards of that program and the low standards that college football has for that program. Wisconsin loses 3 games out of 4 in Minnesota. That gets a coach fired. PJ Fleck is 3-3 versus the Badgers. That gets him a promotion. That's the difference in the program.
He's won 2 in a row. He's won 2 in a row against Wisconsin.
I said 3 out of 4. Yeah, absolutely unacceptable. And that was a large part of what Paul Chris. And I know that Chris wasn't there at the last game last season, but that was the kind of game that was putting Chris on thin ice. But that's fine. Minnesota's whether they beat St. Norbert for a national title in 1906, a claimed national title. I know their fans like to talk about that stuff, but that has no relevance at all. The last time they won a Big Ten championship was in 1967. So
I think Fleck, though, I think, I know you're a Wisconsin guy. I think he's a good fit for the program up there. I mean,
that's fine.
If you can win 9 games at Minnesota, that's pretty damn good. So, and he's done that, back-to-back years now, won 11 games, 4 years ago. But yes, he does seem like he's the punching bag for the other Big Ten West fan bases.
He deserves it. He's the Elon Musk of Wisconsin and Big Ten West coaches. But I will say, not too many Big Ten coaches lose to a MAC team at home, and that's what he did last year. I'm just saying, the perception of how good he is, even the national media is guilty of this, does not bear out unless they have that low perception of the Minnesota program and what their ceiling is. And maybe that's all it is. Okay, another one. Luke Fickell.
Badass. I mean, just gonna kick your ass. I mean, that dude, like, you just look at him and he looks like intimidating. He's a wrestler at Ohio State too.
Yeah.
Was he a wrestler at Ohio State? I know he's one in high school.
He was a high school wrestler.
Yeah. I mean, confidence. The guy. He's a good coach. It was a great hire. But yeah, that's the thing. Badass. I respect the hell out of him, what he did at Cincinnati.
Deion Sanders. Coach Prime.
Yeah. Just polarizing is probably the biggest word. Polarizing, flashy, swagger. All that. Marketing genius. It's insane, the number. I don't know if you've been seeing the ratings on these games recently. Yep. Colorado, it is just in 9, almost 10 million people watched that Colorado State game on last weekend.
It was a good game. It was a good game.
I stayed up and watched it. It's must-watch TV. It really is. Yep. And I kind of thought that this would happen. I don't think anyone thought they'd be good. But here they are, 3-0. I don't think they'll beat Oregon. Do you think they'll beat Oregon?
No, I don't. I think they're a 3-loss team probably. Still, it's impressive. I will say I don't like the style. It's a big contrast in styles between how Prime has done it versus like a Fickell, where we lost 4 people in the program over the last year. But people do it differently. But I feel like it's kind of a fun story, and then they'll lose to Oregon State by 25, and then we'll see what happens. But anyway, another one.
Which I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing how he reacts after a loss.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see that. So it's
winning is easy. Winning is easy. Losing is very difficult. So we'll see how he handles the press and the press room after that. But we'll see. He's a bright guy, and we'll see how he handles it. Barry Alvarez.
Badger, goat. Physical running backs. The guy kind of looks like a Badger. He kind of looks like, I always thought him and Bucky the Badger always kind of looked the same.
Well, you must think Badgers are incredibly handsome then. That's where we're going.
Bucky, he's got a nice, he's not a bad looking dude. I think Goldie, I met Goldie when I was out in Minnesota. Goldie the Gopher. I like Goldie more than Bucky, but Bucky's a good mascot. Alvarez does look like Bucky the Badger.
Goldie, just by the way, Goldie's a rodent, and Bucky is absolutely not a rodent. It is a higher
They're
mammal.
both basically rodents.
No, badgers are not rodents, and badgers. There's never been a gopher badger battle in nature because a gopher, they're smart enough to know better. They will never do that. And then finally, the 2023 Oklahoma Sooners.
TBD. I have no idea. Last year, OU was 3-0 at this point last year, blew out Nebraska. And I'm like, Brent Venables is going to be, he's going to just not skip a beat, and they're going to win the Big 12 and make the college football playoff. Heck no. They got their ass kicked in the Big 12 play. So TBD. A lot of people don't even know I'm an OU guy. That's how unbiased I try to be about OU. And
same with me. They don't think I'm an OU guy either.
Yeah. Scary Alvarez. That's a Gopher fan. But
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, TBD. I mean, I hope they can turn some heads and prove some people wrong. But I mean, defense was really bad last year. So
Yeah.
I mean, they got to play better. Gabriel's got to play better under pressure when those moments come. But I mean, TBD.
Gotcha. Well, big game boomer. This was a tremendous pleasure of a lifetime for you
It was an honor to be on here.
yeah, absolutely. And but you know, good luck to your Sooners this year, and you know, hang on there, and come check things out at Camp Randall.
I
I think
need to get up there.
that will forever change your perception of what these doofuses have been telling you about how things are. And boy, let's get that win at Purdue. This is a really big game for the Badgers this week. I
I'm
don't
not
even
even worried
overstate it.
about money. I mean, Wisconsin's a 6-point favorite. I mean, that's the easiest money I think you could make. They're going to destroy Purdue's. Did you watch Purdue play last week against Syracuse?
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Okay, so Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi are going to have like 500 yards.
Well, I'm hoping for 6. So we'll see what happens.
But yeah, no. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. You know, enjoyed talking to you on Twitter.
Sounds good, my friend. Stay in touch.
Absolutely.